Welcome to our explainer. Today, we're digging into a pretty provocative take on retirement planning. It's aimed at people whose careers don't look like the typical 9 to 5, specifically travel occupational therapists. We're looking at a source that basically says the financial advice most of us get might be totally wrong for them. Okay, let's get into it.
Wow. Okay, so that's the opening line from our source material today. Pretty bold, right? It's designed to make you stop and listen, and, it works. The author is clearly not holding back. So the big question is, why? Why would a 401k, the plan that's pretty much the gold standard for retirement, be framed as a total trap? Let's unpack that argument. So the whole case is built around what the author calls the triple whammy. These are three big problems that, according to the source, make the 401k a really bad deal for anyone who hops from job to job like a travel therapist on those short 13-week contracts. All right, here's how the source says it all goes wrong. First up, vesting periods. You know that employer match that always looks so tempting? Well, the argument here is you'll probably never actually get to keep it because you have to stick around for years and you're gone long before that happens. Second, those contribution gaps. Taking a few weeks off between contracts doesn't just pause your savings. The source claims it completely torpedoes your compound growth. And finally, tax deferral. This one's interesting because it's usually sold as a benefit, but the author here frames it as a bad thing, saying you're just putting off your tax bill to a time when, well, tax rates are likely to be even higher.
Okay, so that's the theory, but what does this so-called triple whammy actually look like in real money? The source runs a scenario to show what it sees as the potential long-term damage.
So imagine this. You work your contracts for 20 years, you contribute when you can, and you look at your account and you've got $400,000 in there. I mean, on the face of it, that feels pretty good, right? A nice chunk of change, a success.
But here's where the source really drills down with a tough question. Having a big pile of money isn't really the goal, is it? The goal is the income you can live on for the rest of your life. So what does that 400 grand actually get you? And here it is. This is the real gut punch in the author's argument. Using a common financial guideline, the 4% rule, that $400,000 balance gives you just $16,000 a year. And as the source is quick to point out, that's before you've paid any taxes on it. The conclusion here is pretty stark. You could do everything you thought you were supposed to do and still end up with an income that's just not enough. This quote really sums up the source's grim outlook. The argument is that the very plan that was supposed to set you free ends up doing the opposite, creating what the author calls golden handcuffs. You're stuck. You either have to keep working or risk burning through your savings way too fast.
All right, so after painting that pretty bleak picture, the source doesn't just leave you there. It proposes its own alternative path, a two-step plan that it says is tailor-made for people who don't have one steady long-term employer. Let's see what that strategy looks like.
Okay, so the proposed solution here has two main parts. Step one is all about building up your money. The author suggests using something called an Indexed Universal Life Policy, or an IUL, claiming it gives you tax-free growth and protects you from market downturns. Step two is about turning those savings into income. This is where the source talks about creating your own private pension. It suggests you can do this with products like an indexed IRA or a fixed indexed annuity. In fact, this is where someone with an existing 401k from past jobs might, according to the source, do a strategic rollover, moving that money into an indexed IRA to let it keep growing, but under this different set of rules. So let's look at the key selling points, at least as the source presents them. On one side, you have the IUL, which is framed as your tax-free money bucket. The source claims it has zero risk of market loss, and you can access your funds tax-free. On the other side, you have the annuity, pitched as your private pension. Its supposed perks: a guaranteed income you can't outlive that's immune to market crashes.
To make this feel a little less like just abstract financial talk, the author lays out a real-world example. It shows how this two-part strategy could actually play out over 25 years. Okay, so in this scenario, the author takes a hypothetical $1,000 a month and splits it. Half of it, $500, goes into that IUL. Using a projected average return of 6%, the source estimates that could grow to around $340,000. The other $500 goes into the annuity,
At a projected 4% rate, that could become about $240,000. So the author's point is that the total, $580,000, isn't just a bigger number, but it's also supposedly more secure and better structured than the 401k example. So after laying out this whole argument, the problem, and their proposed solution, the article wraps up with a very direct conclusion and a really clear call to action.
And this is the final, powerful idea the source really wants to hammer home. It's a direct challenge, right? It's saying, hey, question the default plan. Find a strategy that's actually built for your life, not for the career your parents had.
So what should you do? Well, the author's advice is crystal clear. The source says to replace your 401k, set up this private pension for yourself, and lock in that guaranteed income. And then it makes its final pitch, telling readers to book what it calls a free retiring solution session to actually put this plan into motion.
So we're going to end this explainer with the one big question this whole article brings up. You know, regardless of what you think about the specific products it's promoting, it really forces you to ask, does the financial path you're on truly fit the reality of your work life? Is your plan built for you, or is it built for someone else's career? That's a powerful thought to leave with. Thanks for joining us.